Trees and bushes rustled as the wind wailed and shrieked. The air was cold and bitter, sky dark and bleak. The feet of the hunter pounded as it chased to reach its prey, but the siren just ran faster, desperate to get away. The night sky was its usual shade of charcoal grey, pulsing with veins of purple light, the remnants of a sick and twisted curse thrust upon the world in the late 19th century. The trees had become torn and twisted, the mist seemed to roll in from every direction, seeping from the ground, pouring from the hollows in trees like incense, and filling the air, making the environment appear blurred and fuzzy, giving it an eerie and haunting appearance. The hunter began to slow his approach, as the trail of rustling foliage died down just ahead of him. "I'm sure you have heard of me, and I am sure you are scared. My name is Bertram Emsworth, and I am a hunter. But you need not worry, Siren, for I am not here to kill you, only to bring you back to my abode at Castle Emsworth, in the hopes that we can bring back your humanity. I'm not like the Van Helsings, and I'm not like the man who turned you into this beast." Leaves gently crunched beneath his feet as he cautiously approached the area where the rustling had stopped. He looked around, hoping to see a flash of yellow feathers or hear the rattle of the maracas that the creature always appeared to have clutched in her hands. He leaned over the bushes, calling out again, desperate for an answer. "I'm not like Willis Van Afton. Why don't you come out and tell me your name? I won't hurt you, I promise." Suddenly, the sounds of rustling hastened behind him. As a blur of yellow and orange ran out from the bushes behind him, it lunged towards the hunter, teeth bared, more dripping with saliva, with its arms outstretched but still holding the maracas firmly. Emsworth ducked underneath, rolling under as the beast flew overhead. The siren landed just behind where the hunter had been standing, and each of them turned to stare each other in the eyes. Emsworth watched the creature, with its eyes wide, body currently in a defensive position. He focused on the eyes, deep black, with a purple pupil piercing through the middle, twitching and crackling in the socket. He seemed to be scanning the environment, looking for either a way to escape or a way to hurt him. Then something that might have seemed unexpected to most, but not to him. A tear rolling down the siren's feathers, landing on his bright orange beak. Emsworth, realizing he might get some answers now, calmly reached for the gun in his pocket, watching as the siren's eyes narrowed and feathers began flailing and standing on end. Aggravated? No. Scared. "You have no need to worry, you can trust me. I'm not going to hurt you, it's not your fault you are like this. There's only one person to blame for your current situation. I'm just here to take you to safety. Please come with me." The siren squawked and shrieked, crying as it shouted back at him. "You're a liar, nobody thinks we deserve to live. I was a child and that madman Van Afton turned me into this thing. You are chasing me, and the only reason anyone has looked for me in the last 10 years is to try and kill me. And that's justified because of all the people I have killed just so I could eat. You're just like the rest of them. You'll take me away and kill me as a public display of what happens to the curse." More tears rolled down her feathers, soaking the ground beneath her. Steam rolled up from her as the warm tears touched the cold winter air. "Look at you, you reach for your gun even now." "You're right, I am reaching for my gun, but not for the reason you believe. Will you allow me to grab it?" There was no answer, but he wrapped his hand around the weapon, not around the trigger, but around the barrel, before holding his other hand outstretched, smiling timidly and watching her face turn in the direction that he threw the gun, into the bushes, away from sight. He breathed quickly as the adrenaline hit and his smile grew slightly wider. The siren looked at him, perplexed, intrigued. She had been so certain that he was there to kill her, that she now didn't know what to do. She was still skeptical, but the feathers on her back and neck began to fall to their natural shape, and the fear had begun to fall away from her stance. She straightened herself, 9 foot tall, dwarfing the hunter at 5'10". She looked down at him, head twitching as she pondered what to do. She became calm, and her voice began to settle. "How do you know what I am? How do you know I'm not one of the hundreds of monsters that were created by the curse? And how much do you know about Van Afton?" Emsworth stared at her, smiling gently, and told her what he knew. I admittedly don't know much, but a friend turned enemy of Van Afton came to me and told me what he was doing. His name was Edwin Moranis, and he told me to look for you specifically, as he knew that you might be easier to talk to considering how much older you were than the other children that went missing. I know that Edwin attempted to stop him and he helped you all escape, but he regrets not being able to help you further. He came to me with hopes that I could help you where he couldn't. Then his eyes dropped to the siren's hands. Tell me, is there a reason you're always holding those maracas? The siren lifted one of her hands and looked at the maraca sitting in her palm, confused by the question but still happy to answer. Well, since I was at the castle... The siren threw her head backwards and screamed in agony. She took a few pained steps backwards towards the trees before nearly collapsing to the ground. Emsworth's glance darted down towards her leg, which was now drenched in blood, twitching, and had a crossbow bolt protruding from either side of her shin lodged in the bone. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the area around them, staring into the trees in the direction he had came from. There it was, the bright glint of the silver-tipped crossbow bolt cutting through the mist. Siren, please go and hide. I need to stop my stupid so-called apprentice before they try hurting you again. Just as he finished speaking, the whistle of the second bolt cut through the air, just missing both Emsworth and the Chica siren. He pushed the creature into the trees, desperate to get her away, before pushing himself to his feet and marching towards them and shooting at them. The apprentice walked out from the undergrowth, crossbow aimed at Emsworth's head, a crooked-toothed, sly grin cutting through a brown shaggy beard, and manic eyes confirmed what Emsworth had expected. He had no intention of saving the afflicted. Emsworth just stood there, arms behind his back, staring at the real monster. So Silas, all of it was a lie then? You just used me to find the poor girl? I just have a few questions I would like answered before you pull that trigger on me. What use is it if you get your answers? You're never going to get far enough to actually use the information you gain. He croaked. Besides, why would I waste my time on you when the prey is getting away from me? Oh, come on, Silas. Who is the bigger prey in this? The Chica siren, who you have already managed to harm, or me, the biggest thorn in the boot of the Van Helsing family, the man responsible for the majority of the Van Helsing's failed hunts, and the supposed killer of countless people as a result of saving monsters rather than killing them? Surely with such a prize as me, you can grant a few answers. Let a man die in peace? Silas dropped the bow just out of view of his face, so they were now looking at each other eye to eye. He tilted and nodded his head and sighed. I suppose you're right. I can grant you a last request. Ask your questions, but be quick about it. I might still have a chance to get a bonus for that siren. In a more chipper and jovial tone, pulling a notepad from his pocket, he began asking, Grand, thank you so much. He darted his eyes towards the trees behind Silas, seeing a 9-foot-tall shadow stalking through the trees. Hey, I didn't say you could write any of this down. What if someone else finds the book? Well, that shouldn't be a problem. I'll be dead, so you can either burn the book or take all the information about the afflicted from it. I'm sure that'll line your pockets quite nicely. Fine, go ahead, ask your questions. Thank you. Firstly, who is it you're working for, the Van Helsings or Van Afton, or are they one and the same? I've been working for the Van Helsings, as was Mr. Van Afton. He was creating monsters for the express purpose of granting the Van Helsings more afflictions to use at their disposal. So you're aware that he has been creating the afflicted that you're hunting? Next question, runt. Silas lifted the crossbow, hiding behind it once again, clearly becoming agitated. Okay, straight to it. Where can I find Van Afton? And I couldn't help but notice you said was and not is, in regards to him working for the Van Helsings. From what I've heard, Van Afton was chased out from his position. After losing all of these beasts, he was forced into hiding. The Van Helsings claimed any work they could, but he burned his old labs. They know he's still around though, as we have got tabs on a few new afflicted that fit with the themes he used. Most likely working on the outskirts of Vasbiaton. Thank you for that. Emsworth closed his book and placed it in his pocket once more, then paused. A final question. What's the usual healing period for one of Van Afton's afflicted? Why do you... A screech cut through the trees behind Silas and he turned, crossbow targeting the beast. Emsworth ran up behind him and punched him in the jaw, throwing off his aim. The bolt left the hilt, whistling through the air and hitting the siren in the shoulder. She screamed in pain but continued running. Emsworth threw another punch and another before ripping the crossbow from the enemy's hand and smacking the hilt into his nose. It spouted with blood and he fell backwards to the ground. His breathing became staggered as he crawled backwards along the floor. His beard became matted and caked with blood, appearing black. The blood stained his teeth and his eyes became wide and bloodshot. The siren, also panting, stood next to Emsworth. He looked up at her and nodded, a confirmation to hurt him as much as the Van Helsings and Van Afton had hurt her. The screams echoed through the forest. Bats and birds frantically flew up through the canopy to get away, and the moon finally cut through the purple and charcoal sky. When she was done with Silas, he was clawed up, blood and vomit covering his face. He had chunks of hair and teeth missing. His left arm and right leg had been torn clear off, with his opposite limbs being broken and ripped to shreds. His stomach was a gaping gash, 4 horizontal gashes with his intestines hanging outside of his body. But they made sure he was still breathing, so he could watch what happened next. Emsworth stood facing the siren, smiling at her gently. You were telling me about the maracas. Why do you never let go of them? He clasped his hand around hers. She looked at them again. Ever since I escaped that castle with Edwin's help, I've felt like I have had to hold on to them even in my sleep. If I ever attempt to let go of them or even loosen my hands a little, it hurts and I become drowsy and powerless. I become filled with fear and feel as though I'm dying. So I hold on to them through fear of death. I know I said I wasn't going to hurt you, but I need to see what happens when you let go of one of the maracas. You can hold on to the other as tightly as you can, but I desperately need to see what happens. I have a theory on what might be happening. He pulled her fingers from around the maraca, and even that caused her to wince. He calmed her, but could see the tears beginning to roll down her cheeks again. He stared at her, concerned, but then told her, I'm going to take this from your hand now. He pulled it away. The siren screamed and cursed, her whole body began to sting and twitch, nerves felt as though they were on fire, and even more tears rolled. She then lifted her hand, palm outstretched in an attempt to claw at Emsworth. Look at your hand, he shouted, before she could go in for the kill. He was smiling. I think I might be right. She looked up at her hand to see the clammy, scaly talons had begun to change to human flesh. She was still crying and in pain, but could see the feathers slowly falling from that arm. She began to grow weary and stumbled from the pain. The cure to your affliction is to remove you from the maracas. It won't be easy for you to just disconnect from them, and the pain may kill you. But if you come back with me to my castle, I will help you get back to being human. He gave her back the maracas and gave her a smile. She embraced him. For the first time in 10 years, she had been given hope. He held her and let her tears soak into his shoulders.